So how do you build an army when you're a fugitive with a price on your head? Seriously, how do you forge an entire kingdom from, like, a cave in the wilderness? Okay, let's dive into this incredible story, drawn from an ancient text, about how one of history's most legendary leaders assembled a force that would literally change a nation forever.
First things first, we got to get the scene straight. At this point in the story, David is not a king sitting on a throne, not even close. He's an outlaw. He's been banished from the royal court, and he's hiding out in the wilderness, constantly on the move to avoid being captured and, killed by the guy who is on the throne, King Saul.
And that really brings us to the central puzzle of this whole thing. How does a guy with pretty much nothing, just his reputation and a bounty on his head, convince anyone, let alone an entire army, to risk absolutely everything and follow him? I mean, on paper, it sounds impossible.
Well, the answer is it didn't happen all at once. This wasn't some massive movement from day one. It all started with a small, highly respected, and incredibly skilled inner circle. Think of it like this. David first attracted these elite warriors who gave him credibility. They proved it was not just safe, but actually smart to join him.
You have to understand, the very first men to show up at David's camp in this place called Ziklag, they were not your average run-of-the-mill soldiers. No way. These guys were basically the special forces of their day.
The talent on display here was just incredible. These warriors were ambidextrous. They could shoot arrows or sling stones with either hand, which is a massive advantage in a fight. But here's the real kicker. They were from the tribe of Benjamin. They were relatives of King Saul himself. The very man hunting David was losing his best men to him. Just imagine that.
So the word was clearly getting out. After that first elite group, another band of warriors defected to David's side, the Gadites. And if you thought that first group was skilled, well, these guys were legendary.
I mean, the caliber of men David was attracting was just extraordinary. The text describes them as having the faces of lions, fierce, intimidating. They were as swift as gazelles, meaning they were super agile and pretty much unstoppable on rough terrain. And their strength? It was insane. Even the lowest-ranking commander was considered a match for 100 regular soldiers. And the top guys? 1,000. This wasn't just an army. It was like a collection of superheroes.
But as David's reputation started to grow, so did the risks. Sure, more men meant more power, but it also meant a much greater chance of someone infiltrating his camp, someone trying to betray him.
You have to put yourself in his shoes for a second. How could he be sure these newcomers weren't spies sent by Saul? One wrong move, one assassin in his inner circle, and this whole movement would be over before it even really began. Every new face was both a potential ally and a potential threat.
So David confronts a new group directly. He just lays it all out on the table, the two possibilities. He basically says, look, if you're here in peace to help me, then I'm ready to join with you. But if you're here to betray me, just know that you're not just dealing with me. You're dealing with a higher justice. It's this powerful mix of being open to trust, but also giving a really stern warning.
And the response he gets? It's just incredible. A guy named Amasai, totally moved by the moment, gives this powerful, almost poetic pledge of allegiance. It's a total commitment, a heartfelt declaration of loyalty, and right then and there, David accepts them, and his band of outlaws gets that much stronger.
That moment, that pledge of trust, was the turning point. What started as a tiny trickle of elite warriors was about to become an absolutely unstoppable flood.
The momentum created a real snowball effect. The text says it so simply, day after day, more men arrived. That initial high-risk bet made by those first elite warriors had totally paid off, which lowered the risk for everyone else. What was once a super dangerous defection was now the smartest move you could make, and David's small band of followers just swelled into what the source calls a great army, like the army of God.
And then we get to the climax of the story. After King Saul dies, all the tribes of Israel gather at a place called Hebron for one single purpose, to officially hand the kingdom over to David. And the sheer scale of this gathering it's just mind-blowing. Just look at these numbers. They're staggering. From the tribe of Zebulun alone, 50,000 experienced soldiers showed up armed and ready. Asher sent 40,000. Naphtali sent 37,000 soldiers, plus 1,000 of their officers. This wasn't a band of outlaws anymore. This was a national movement.
But here's the thing. It wasn't just about muscle. The group from the tribe of Issachar, for instance, was pretty small. Only 200 chiefs, but they brought something way more valuable than just numbers. They were the strategic advisors, the men who understood the times and knew what Israel should do.
So David was building an army that had brains as well as brawn.
And to put the sheer scale of this into perspective, just from the tribes living on the east side of the Jordan River, 120,000 fully armed soldiers came. 120,000. The support for David at this point was just overwhelming. It was undeniable.
But this gathering, it was so much more than just a military parade. This was the birth of a unified nation under a new king.
After years and years of division and civil strife under Saul, the people were finally united. The source really emphasizes this, saying they came fully determined and with one mind. All these different tribes, with their own leaders and their own histories, were now all focused on a single shared goal.
And how do you celebrate the birth of a kingdom? With a massive 3-day feast, that's how. People from all over the country brought supplies. We're talking tons of flour, fig cakes, raisin cakes, wine, oil, cattle, sheep, the works. This wasn't some grim military camp. This was a full-blown national party.
And really, it all boils down to this one simple but really powerful summary. After all the hiding, all the fighting, all the uncertainty, there was finally joy in the land. The outlaw had become the king, and the scattered tribes had finally become one people.
Which kind of leaves us with this final thought, right? David's story shows us how to build a powerful army from absolutely nothing, but it also suggests something deeper. It took more than just soldiers to unify the kingdom. It took trust, a shared purpose, and celebration. So yeah, an army can win you a throne, but maybe it's joy that truly builds a nation.